Chapter 81. D3 felt like she was in a carnival. Sort of. The mannequins moved slowly and crudely, easily blown to shreds by machine gun fire. After she'd gotten used to the heavy weight of the weapon, it was easy to pick off the few autons that were successfully smashing their way inside the main bar. She stayed crouched behind the handrail of the winding staircase, popped up and blew away another store dummy. One a stuffed monkey in her mind. Sully appeared from the staircase, shotgun in hand.
I can cover it from here if you like.
Sure?
They move like chubby 5-year-olds with sprained ankles, lass. I'll manage. Go and sabotage somebody else's hard work.
He loaded the weapon. D3 took a deep breath and ran up to the second level. At the top of the winding staircase, the steps ended in a majestic, immense library. Countless desks of old oak sat empty. In between gigantic, floor-to-ceiling bookcases, huge, intermittent shadows crept along the thick, crimson carpet. The first room was massive, awe-inspiring, even the dust floating in the air. D3 continued with a fast pace into the next room, equally as large. 7 massive rooms in total. She counted as she stared down the corridor. This was a fancy hallway. Ridiculously awful long hallway. She sighed and slowed a bit. Better not waste all her energy. At the middle, between the third and fourth rooms, she could swear she heard voices. D3 stopped. Her footfalls, very quiet on the rug. She peered around. Her heart pounded clearly, but she was alone. Perhaps it was the sound of the machine gun fire. Now absent, it had been left ringing in her ears. D3 took a deep breath and blinked rapidly. Sweat beaded on her forehead. She cleared her mind and tried to listen closely. Mumbling, incoherent, a great many whispers. There was definitely something. She could hear voices from far away, and it sounded almost like a cocktail party. D3 peered over at the wall. The sounds were coming from the other side of the bookcases. The closer she walked towards the enormous bookcase, the louder the voices sounded. Incoherent, male and female, all ages. Sounded like a mixture of yelling and whispering. She noted that all of the books were, to her chagrin, related to time travel. The Time Traveler's Wife, by Neffenegger. Looking Backward, by Bellamy. The Time Machine, by Wells. Golf in the Year 2000, by McCullough. The Proteus Operation, by Hogan. A Crashing Plate, over at the soiree. Just then, she could swear someone had called her name, right from the other side of the bookcase. Someone was urgently trying to get her attention. D3 pulled old novels off the shelves below her, sent the heavy tomes to the floor, clearing a patch of wall that had enough room for her to bend down, as she placed her ear to hear it. The moment she did, she felt the vibrations of warm lips on her lobe, hot breath tickling her small inner ear canal as it whispered, "Don Rothland is the third." Chills crackled on her body as she tore herself away from the bookcase. Holy shit! Holy shit! Holy... D3 was screaming out to no one, and this didn't matter, as she was busy running as fast as her legs would pump her through the length of the entire remaining 4 rooms, wiping her ear obsessively the whole way. She passed through the Olympic-sized, extremely well-adorned chambers quite fast, and entered the last one. D3 slowed down. The final room, of course, ended in another ornate marble staircase, leading up to the 3rd level. D3 stopped, coughed, and sputtered. She wiggled around in a circle a couple of times while she vigorously rubbed the back of her neck and forearms. After regaining her composure, D3 was irritated. The young Mercurian woman looked over to see a leather-bound manuscript of Memoirs of the 20th Century, written in 1733 by Samuel Madden, which occupied a reading table nearest the doorway to the upward-bound staircase. So, she gently set her one live grenade on it. It would come in handy later. as D3 firmly decided she hated this ridiculously awful and annoyingly long hallway. Upstairs on level 3, D3 found a kitchen which was grand and loaded with industrial-sized polished steel ovens, refrigerators, deep sinks, and freezers. Nothing was being prepared, however. No inviting scents wafted here, no welcoming promise of a good meal, even though every single possible piece of culinary equipment was represented, accounted for, in a drawer or hanging from overhead. Not as enormous, this kitchen, as the preceding library, but still massive. D3 estimated it would be enough to cater a corporate or wedding party. Dozens of waitstaff, short order cooks, chefs, they could all fit in here comfortably. Yet, where were they? And the second she thought about that fact, D3 found herself hearing that cocktail party right on the other side of the wall. Again. Whispers and yelling, soft and distant. Instead of giving herself over to fear, D3 became intent on survival and used her available resources to destroy this damnable kitchen. She needed garbage bags, big, thick garbage bags. First, she wrapped herself in several industrial trash bags, cutting her boots twice. Next, she turned on all the electrical devices. Then, she started a small fire. Focused, D3 made sure her weapon was full of ammunition before beginning. As the fire suppression system shorted out all the electrical devices, D3 charged through the kitchen, fast, firing upon all the outlets and electrical mains she could see. Sparks crackled all around her. D3's makeshift rain slicker kept her watered down, protected from the flames as she dodged more stray, popping electrical hisses, which threatened more than mere shock. She was dancing with the devil, betting that she'd evade electrocution because the circuits would overload. D3 plunged toward the new staircase on the other side of the kitchen. Her plan had worked. She'd successfully shot the appliances. Another stuffed monkey. D3 stood, tearing herself out of the wet, plastic armor. Looking back at the kitchen, she was startled to see that now it was merely a simple, tiny room. Small stove, microwave, old clunker fridge, little white sink full of dirty dishes. Across the economy-sized space, now only 9 feet away, she saw the staircase she'd come up on. It had transformed into a utilitarian set of steps, made of simple wood planks, diminutive and unfinished, but still, the way back down to level 2, she hoped. The stairs ahead of her were similarly plain, unfinished. Cedar handrails led shakily up to the 4th level. They ended in an attic, which was musty, dank, gloomy. It was also absolutely minuscule, barely more than a crawl space. D3 could only fit in her top half, and still had to lean her head to the side to peer in. Very dark. There was a single, unlit light bulb overhead. D3 yanked the drawstring, and the microscopic room was bathed in an archaic, sickly yellow glow. She saw what she thought was a mirror, perhaps left over from a bathroom. When her eyes adjusted, D3 found her reflection was actually looking back at her from a small, black, hovering whirlpool. It was framed with thick, circular metal piping, hefty wiring, and attached to cables which then disappeared into a narrow wall overhead. D3 stared at it, weighing her destructive options. How could she take this thing apart? Unscrew it? Short it out somehow? Or could she just shoot it? D3, the impossibly shiny ebony pool asked. D3 peered into it. She knew she had kept hearing someone call her name all night. She knew there was a party right on the other side of that beautiful dark whirlpool, right on the other side of the living, inky liquid. D3, hypnotized, dropped her semi-automatic weapon as she continued to stare into a void in her head. D3, the renegade time lady cooed. Deceit slowly reached out a black, sludge-dripping rubber arm from within the tiny ebony whirlpool. Deceit's hand, composed of pure, inky liquid, covered D3's face. There was a muffled scream. D3 could swear she heard someone calling her name.